activist to controversial politician, Arvind Kejriwal is probably the most controversial politician in India today, maybe the most controversial man in India today. Opinions are divided, but there are two filmmakers who have united to bring Arvind Kejriwal's story on screen. I'm at the 2016 Toronto International Film Festival with Vinay Shukla and Khushboo Ranka. Khushboo and Vinay, thank you so much for being with us. So your film, An Insignificant Man, is premiering at TIFF. How did your collaboration become a part of this story, and how did this story come about for you guys? What's the story behind your collaboration?
We were basically about we were here at TIFF 4 years ago with another film called Ship of Pieces, and that's roughly about the time when we began to hear that the anti-corruption activists from India are thinking about forming a political party. Both of us were also very keen on starting to do or looking to do something. We were looking to do something within the documentary medium, and we were working on about 2 or 3 other ideas, and we decided to take up this idea by just going to Delhi and just finding out what was happening. So it began very organically from there, just going to their meetings, public meetings, trying to see what's happening, and it slowly evolved. We started shooting, we started documenting them, and it slowly evolved into a documentary.
Was it? Were you usually on the same page while making the film, or were there gray areas where you had to meet a middle ground? How was the working process of making this film for you?
Yeah, we were very often on the same page, but also on a lot of occasions we were at loggerheads, and it's very hard. I mean, making films, anyone will tell you, is extremely heartbreaking and soul breaking at the same time. So and to have two hearts and souls, also doing it is, I think, double the pain. So yeah, I feel, I mean, honestly, it was a very fruitful and extremely productive collaboration, but also, of course, there were disagreements. Of course, we had to meet somewhere in the middle very often.
Yeah. What to you are her strengths as a director, and what to you are his? Like, what do you feel you individually bring to the table? So for her, what would you say?
To be honest, I think in a process, at least in the co-direction relationship that we have, I think it's very often just stepping up for each other. So what happens is, on some days you're not able to do something which are your strengths, and which are the areas that you usually can take care of very well.
Right.
And a good co-direction relationship is when the other person can probably, at least in our dynamic, step up on that day or on those occasions and make sure that side gets taken care of as well.
Right.
So I think that's the kind of relationship that we have worked on this film. Both of us shoot. Both of us have produced the film ourselves along with Adam. There was another friend of ours who was the associate director on the project. Even he was a cinematographer on the project. But both of us do sound, both of us shoot, both of us produce, and both of us have basically, we started the film with 3 people chasing a story in New Delhi, and now we are here. So I think it's a relationship that just keeps sort of bouncing off each other.
The film is called An Insignificant Man, but what about this insignificant man made him significant enough to make a film around?
It is interesting, right? When someone who, someone who's an outsider in politics and just comes into politics and wants to shake up the system. I think that is inherently, it's a classic story. It's a classical story, and it's hard to resist that story.
Right.
And when you find it in real life, and when you're able to sort of match those points, like in a good underdog story, you have certain plot points which you want the film to sort of show, so that the audience is going on a journey.
Right. Right.
And we began with this sort, like when I said before, with a curiosity about this person who is also so polarizing, in the sense of people had such diverse reactions to him. Like in the screening yesterday, one would have seen some people, they're like, oh my god, this guy, he's so annoying. And, others will say that, and there'll be others who say that he's the only person who can do anything.
Right.
So that's the level of polarization that he elicits. To us as filmmaker, that's a great subject. Just that range is amazing, because that means your film is open to interpretations across a very huge and wide range of stuff. And again, we didn't know that actually that they were going to become a significant player in Indian politics as well. But when that happened, for us it was again, for the film it was interesting to see that, because then it's really a big leap.
Right. Now, you obviously would have had your own personal viewpoints on him, on the party. How did you go about keeping that distant from what you were shooting or what you were filming or how you were filming? So that must have been quite a task, no? Because it's not something, it's not, you have an opinion on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a challenge that we face, that we faced every day.
Yeah.
And that we faced every day while we were shooting and while we were editing. And it's a negotiation.
Yeah.
There is no sort of a final method for it, at least for us, that that we do this, and that helps us to stay like this on the film.
Right.
I think it's a constant, since we are two co-directors. So there is a lot of talking about how are we seeing each scene, how are we seeing each person, how do we remember what happened a year ago, and at that point we would feel about it like this, and now when we are looking back at it, what do you think, what is important, what is not important.
Right.
We also kept very active logs while we were shooting. So we kept very active production logs, like this is what we feel about this is what we feel about this is what we feel about this, so that we could go, and then we went back to it once we were done with shooting, to try and understand that, okay, this is what we felt about it while we were shooting. When, with time, 5 months have passed, 6 months have passed, how do I feel? And what is the sort of median point that I should be arriving at? So I think it's a constant negotiation in that sense.
So the Aam Aadmi Party is an evolving political state, and so is Arvind Kejriwal as a politician. When you're making a documentary on something that is evolving, how do you determine a start and an end point?
Well, in fact, what you asked is the sort of dharam sankat of all documentary filmmakers. It's not just this film or this story.
Yeah.
It's you can go ahead and ask any documentary filmmaker, and they'll be like, we wish we had started earlier, and that we wished we had continued shooting more.
Right.
But that is how life is, right? Like the story continues.
Right.
So, in our case specifically, again, I mean, of course, the story existed before we started shooting, and it continues to exist after we finish shooting.
Right.
But I think what works is that we are telling a story which is complete in itself, and that really works for the film.
Right.
In a way.
So when you make a film that is based on a subject like this, especially when it's political, you always run into the chance of it being used as or targeted towards voters and made into political propaganda. How are you guys going to steer clear from that?
Again, I think that we are not apologetic about anything. All films, once you've made a film, it's in the public domain.
Right.
That's true for all film,
right.
all news, everything. That's true for everything. That cannot be a reason for anyone to not make a film about something, And in fact, what we've continued to say, and we stand by that, is that more films should be made. In fact, so that there are sort of even more so that a more complex truth emerges. We need more documentation, we need more films, we need more conversation, we need people to make film on other political parties, on the judicial process, maybe a film on what a judge's story is, a judge's journey is, what a court case looks like, what a police investigation looks like, what a media house looks like from the inside, how do they decide their stories. So actually what we need is more such films, and it should never be a consideration whether it will be used as a propaganda or not, because honestly we just don't have enough in the way of transparency and storytelling which which sheds more light on our own identity as a democracy.
Mm-hmm. Now, why do you think that's the case? Why this is probably one of the first documented inside looks of how, especially in the Indian democracy and the democratic scene, why hasn't there been more that has been made? Why do you feel that's the case?
I think that's the right question.
Yeah. So why do you think that's the case? Why hasn't this been explored before?
I'm not able. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't want to get into why it hasn't been done ago. I'm guessing there were many challenges. I can tell you why we did it.
Yeah.
We did it because we were deeply curious about politics, and we found ourselves attracted to this story. It was a very natural call for us once we got there, and once we began shooting. We requested the AAP and Arvind and Manish and Yogendra Yadav for access, which they said most welcome to shoot whatever you feel like. And our film evolved out of the footage that we captured. It was, I can tell you that it seems like a pretty difficult thing, but you cannot imagine the things that work out when you turn up.
Exactly, that's true.
Right.
It is about turning up, and we turned up for a year each day, of that year. And actually, it's interesting because I was just thinking when we were shooting the film, we asked for access also from other political parties. So at that point we were thinking of calling the film Election Day, which is a more generic sort of a more sort of that kind of a look at comparing how these sort of a West Wing kind of a drama where you're given a sort of contrasting perspective on different kinds of war rooms.
Right.
We didn't get that access, and so we had to limit it to public events whenever it went with the other parties. Mm-hmm. So if it was up to us, we would have included everybody.
Right.
Actually.
Yeah, but the accessibility was an issue. So, in terms of the other political parties, obviously this is centric towards one, but there are mentions to other political parties as well. And it's a very, I guess, hot topic, or the whole freedom of expression thing. The whole, can you express? Do you foresee once the film releases in India, more people see it? What would the other political parties have to say about their portrayal or lack thereof?
Lack thereof, we can't. We would even now we would love to.
Yeah. So, if anyone's listening.
Yeah,
hello.
Exactly. But how they would react, I mean, I don't know. I hope they see it as they are entertained by the film.
I mean, they're an audience. First, and a political party second, as we would like to see it. Like when you, as a filmmaker, when you think of people who are going to watch it, you don't think of them in stratas, saying that the Bengalis will think this, and the communists will think this, and the Biharis will think this. That is where I come from. I'm saying you see your people as audiences.
Right.
So both of us are very keen on understanding how the audiences react to the film. About freedom of expression, this question has come up a couple of times since the film has launched, about people asking whether this film will come out in India. To be honest, both of us don't find any reason for it to not to come out in India. I think yes, it is a political film. Yes, it's a film about a political topic. Yes, it is a film about a deeply polarizing person.
Yeah.
Yes, politics is very, very contentious in India right now. But that is not enough for dialogue to stop. Mm-hmm. That is not enough for attempts at dialogue to be second guessed.
Yeah.
To wonder whether we should be doing it. And as Khushboo said, I think we need more of it and not lesser of it.
And in any case, I mean, not to disregard people's concerns. I think that those concerns are valid. Freedom of expression has been a continuing sort of struggle in India.
Yeah.
It would be, I think it would be a little sort of, we are not putting blinkers and saying that there is no issue whatsoever. Everybody is allowed to say whatever they want. Mm-hmm. Because that's not the truth. And So I hope that our struggle is lesser compared to others who've had to, who've had to fight for their right to show their films. And we are, of course, we stand in solidarity with anybody who wants to say whatever they do.
Mm-hmm. This film has probably been the largest crowd-sourced film in the history of filmmaking in India. And making films that you, I guess, subject material that you believe in, especially of an independent thought, is usually a struggle, just to find the funding to make what you want. What do you think attributes to the phenomenal outpouring of literally the funds to make this film and the resources to make this happen? 786 crowd funders from all over the world. What do you attribute that to?
We are still looking for the answer ourselves, I guess. Like each time we meet somebody who's funded, because we've not met everyone personally.
Yeah.
So each time we meet someone like that, we're like, oh my god, who the hell are you? You know, like, how do you even exist? I mean, seriously, because it's we are independent filmmakers. We don't have a big production house supporting or backing us, and it's very hard. So we were ourselves surprised by how or the response that it generated, and there are other films which have been crowdfunded, so which means that it's a viable model, which means that now with technology, people are taking decision making into their own hands, saying that, okay, you know what, you may not find like the biggest blockbuster audience, but I want to invest in your film so that it's possible. So I think there's a philosophical element to it as well, which is just the act of, actually the act of participatory filmmaking, participatory, decision making in that sense. And I think that's where we are headed to in a lot of industries, including and in the creative industries, and that's great.
Also, I think it's very clearly points to the phenomena of people looking to engage with politics more seriously, through more wider choices, besides the traditionally available choices. People want more opinions. People want more voices. People want more authors stepping on the scene and addressing day-to-day challenges and day-to-day topics. So,
What was the approach? Let's speak actually about the approach that you guys took to filming this documentary, because it's got this sort of journalism lens on to tell the story of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal and AAP. So, talk to us about the approach to filming this and making this film and telling his story.
I would say actually it's not. I would say it's hyper-journalism. and let me classify what I mean by saying hyper-journalism.
Right.
I was just talking to our editor when we were making the film, and at one point I was like, we were editing this one particular scene, and we started talking, and I was like, the thing is that we are not journalists, and we should not be journalists. We are filmmakers, and we are making cinema. And what is the difference between a news piece and cinema? Because the same event can be shot as cinema, and the same event can be shot as a news piece. The difference is, I think the difference is where you choose to start, where you choose to finish, and where you choose to place your camera. Our camera was often placed even on the journalists, even the camera was turned towards the journalist. If you've seen our teaser, where those people are jostling, and it goes on for like, it goes on for 20 seconds before, Arvind Kejriwal almost emerges from this birth canal of this crowd,
Right.
And I think that's a good example of how this is cinema. At least we hope it's a little bit more cinematic, because it's absurd. Yeah. It's absurd what happens over there, and that absurdity, that moment of reflection where you're just left with that clip, to make sense of that, of it as a stage, as cinema, as theater of the absurd, as everything, there's poetry in it, and there is, at least that's what I think.
I agree.
A lot of Bollywood personalities are coming out in support of the film. They cannot wait to watch it. I think Sonam's tweeted about it. Shekhar Kapoor has tweeted about it. When you have like that type of audience and those viewers giving a sort of an endorsement to the film, that obviously feels good. You feel good about it. Do you foresee it having a wide release in India? What's the game plan for the film from here on?
Absolutely. Why shouldn't it? Every filmmaker foresees, to be very honest. I don't think you'll find a single filmmaker in this world who will be like, no, I don't think my film is But yeah, the people have been very supportive. I should also mention that every day we get tweets from people who aren't celebrities, who have everyday working lives, and it's very, very, very heartening to see them come forward and passionately criticize how much time we have taken on this project.
Yeah.
Khushboo was saying the other day that we get emails saying today's Wednesday, where is your film? which is deeply humbling, because you have to, as filmmakers, as storytellers, that people are interested in what we may have to say is fantastic. What are the plans to get the film out widely in India? We are going to do everything possible to get the film out widely in India. I think India is the country that, or not the country, they are the people, there are neighbors, there are parents, there are cousins who we made the film for. We have grown up discussing politics around the dining table at times and saying, I remember the times when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was about to get elected, and how passionately my family was discussing everything there was around him, or the Congress years. It's people have taken politics up with both hands and legs in the settings that we come from. And while Toronto and many other festivals are a good platform to showcase our film, it's ultimately the people back home that or people all across the world who would be interested in this story is who we made the film for. So we'll try everything possible to get it across to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. How has making this film informed you about the political process as citizens, and how has it advanced your filmmaking as filmmakers?
How about politics? Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that I would say that definitely more transparency, and I think even the AAP would benefit from more transparency. I think that I am a very, very firm believer that we need more access to. I think for us it was also a matter of being at the right place at the right time. But as I see it, increasingly people are so skeptical also of the camera. Like, they are much more scared of the camera. It's going to. But actually, I really hope that more doors are opened up, more information is made accessible to citizens, and again, and as an extension of that, democracy as an idea has huge problems, and everybody says that so the rule of the majority is ultimately what it cannot always be right. But I think that with all its problems, the answer to even the problems of democracy is actually more democracy. It's not less democracy. So you need to make it more open, more democratic, more involve people more participatory.
Right.
I think in terms of politics, that's what my understanding is. I can come to the film after that if you want to say.
No. I think in terms of politics, actually I am still discovering because the subjects of our film, the AP and the AP experiment is still ongoing. And I feel like our film is one more voice in the discussion around the AP. How that has affected my politics, and I think that's a sort of larger question which I will wait for the answer to, and I think screening this film around the world will contribute to that. But yeah, the filmmaking bit.
And in terms of filmmaking, I think it was surprising, really. So I have worked with Anand, and we made our first short film, Continuum, which was fiction.
Right.
And Shibboleth's thesis was fiction.
Right.
It takes so much to construct a scene, a frame, right? You want it to be so authentic, so you'll have somebody, standing in the corner whistling just so that it looks like,
Right.
But when you're making a documentary, it's just amazing. Like, the
Yeah.
kind of detail that I can't even begin telling you. Each scene has so much detail. Like,
Right.
you'll have somebody in our own film, like, in the same shot, Arvind, there's a shot where he's speaking on the mic. Behind him, there is somebody who's on his own track. He's orchestrating the audience the way he thinks, although the audience is not listening to him at all. There is another person who just come and stood and is throwing flowers in the most drab way. Like, it's not like a joyful throwing of flowers. It's like dead flowers being thrown at Arvind.
Right.
And it's such a comedic setting,
Right.
It really is. And I think that is very thought-provoking at the same time.
Right.
So I like to say that actually our film is a political film, but it's actually a comedy, and especially because politics is so ridiculous,
Yeah.
Actually, I think in terms of the approach to filmmaking, it evolved out of our own sort of desire to be invisible in any room.
Yeah.
Both of us spend a lot of time just trying to get be absolutely invisible, which is something that Khushboo mentioned the other day. It's being the furniture in the room. Like how invisible can you become? So our gear was extremely small. We shot it on cameras like these.
Yeah.
We shot it on
without tripods.
With just like a lot of people had told us, if you're not using tripods, don't make a film.
Glad you didn't listen to them.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if we'll know soon enough whether we should have listened to them or not. But and like it was an organic process. In the beginning, for example, we didn't have any money for any mics, so it was just the camera. And then somebody told us, listen, you need to get mics on camera, and you need to get good sound. And we were like, why? You can hear. But so I'm saying it evolved out of a very organic process,
Right.
wherein we started with a little know-how, and the language shaped itself over a period of time as we grew more comfortable, as we grew more invisible, and then you see what you see.
Well, you've made a significant film on An Insignificant Man. We wish you all the best in Toronto
Thank you so much.
at Filmy Cafe, and all the best for the film going forward.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you so much for having us.